Hi, everybody. I think one of the interesting things about listening or reading about people that are visionaries, successful entrepreneurs, scientists, athletes, artists, people who have affected other people's lives on a global scale is how they can sound so arrogant, so weird, crazy, and out of touch sometimes. And I think it is because they're looking so much into the future and they are thinking on a global scale, things that mere mortals like me don't really think about. I don't wake up in the morning thinking about how am I going to be sending people to Mars or how will my IP be used by everybody in the world. I think about how am I going to be paying my bills. But that's how it felt like listening and reading the interviews of Bang Si Hyuk. Sometimes it feels so weird sometimes because he is so out of here. His vision is so big that I can't relate. And I think that's why a lot of people hate him so much. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. How does that big brain, weird, crazy brain of him actually translate to an actual business plan and a business strategy? His concrete strategies that is being used to expand K-pop globally, his plan for BTS or the lack of thereof, the way that he's monetizing everything, maybe even talk about why they are not prioritizing the vocals of their talents. All right, if you ended up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification button, and share the video. On to the video. Bang Si Hyuk invests in the future, not in the present. This is why many think visionaries are crazy people because they invest in things that we, mere mortals, don't need yet or we don't even consider yet. But the principle is simple. When something is new, it's cheap to invest in. Once it hits, then it becomes valuable. The initial investment yields higher returns. Here's one great story that demonstrates that. Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin spent years looking for an investor, but everyone they approached told them that there is no space for another search engine. Do remember that during that time, the market was already saturated with search engines like Yahoo, Ask Jeeves, Metacrawler, and others. That is until Andy Bechtolsheim, co-founder of Sun Microsystems, gave the two $100,000 in August of 1998. At that time, Google wasn't even incorporated yet. It's not clear how many shares Bechtolsheim bought, but it's estimated to be between 2.5 to 5 million. So when Google went public in 2004, Bechtolsheim sold 31 million of his stocks, and his original investments would now be worth billions. If Page and Brin didn't see the need for a search engine that is more encompassing, and if Bechtolsheim didn't believe in them, we would still be drowning in irrelevant search results and endless pop-up ads. Bang Si Hyuk has that vision in him. He believed in restructuring the music experience to put fans first or fans in the center instead of the artist. He reinvented the concert experience, created weavers, and directly linked artists with fans. It is now the structure that many other agencies are copying. But while others are busy copying that model, he's on to the next stage, and that is the integration of music with metaverse, AI, NFTs, gaming, and others. And just like people hated the thought of another search engine, many are hating the thought of music integrating with new technologies like the metaverse and using technologies like NFTs. But that's why visionaries who can execute end up leading the world. They aren't allergic to change. They don't hate change. They like controlling it. Bang's concentration is in making sure that when the future arrives, HYBE will already be there. And what's the benefit to artists? That will allow HYBE and its artists to transcend their prime, to continue earning well beyond their youth and well beyond the glittering lights of idle life mortality. Failure is an investment. Bang admitted that while they are doing everything they can to make sure Cat's Eye succeeds, he admitted that the whole Dream Academy reality show and how they executed it was highly experimental because they really weren't sure how the Western market would respond to something like this. He was well aware they would fail in many areas. Short of admitting the show had a lot to be desired, and I do agree. He even said he came into the project with some hypotheses and tested it in the show. And some he was proven correct, and some he was proven wrong. But what was valuable is what they learned from the experience. Understandably, he didn't give particulars, but we all know it wasn't well received based on the views and online chatter. Again, visionaries do things like this, make an investment in something even if all they will get are learnings and insights. Last year, Elon Musk's SpaceX massive Starship rocket exploded minutes after it cleared the launch pad during a flight test. It was exactly that, a flight test. He spent hundreds of millions on a launch he knew was going to explode. So why did he do it? To learn and do things the right way when they do an actual flight with a payload and astronauts in them. We can assume that as HYBE expands into different industries, there will be some things that they are doing that they probably know has less chances of succeeding, but they will do it in order to learn and do better in the next one. The three-pronged plan to strengthen the presence of K-pop in the global market. Bang Si Hyuk has a concrete strategy on how to expand the K-pop industry globally, and I'm actually surprised he shared it so openly. First is grow K-pop's global influence by acquiring foreign companies like Quality Control. 2. Structure operations that can consistently produce superstars. 3. Expand platforms to monetize fan-artist interaction like HYBE's Weverse. But before we dwell into each of this, let's first discuss what allowed him to even come up with a strategy like this. BTS is HYBE's most important collateral. What allowed Big Hit to create HYBE and what allowed HYBE to expand and acquire companies start with a steady cash flow and confidence of investors so that they can continuously get investments or get a loan from banks. The cash flow that started it all was BTS. The money that BTS brought in wasn't just enough to take Big Hit out of an impending bankruptcy. It was actually enough to make them profitable and expand. What many don't know is that, of course, expansion and acquisition of businesses are never done with cash. No company has millions of dollars sitting around. Companies either get new investments or they get a loan. But getting investments or loans by the millions, that's not actually possible if you can't show proof of success. Again, that's when BTS comes in. BTS was and is HYBE's biggest collateral. Investors have confidence in them. Banks have confidence in them because they have the proof of success in BTS. The no plan for BTS. BTS is constant in Bang Si Hyuk's interview. He always gets asked about the group's future and the plans of the members for their individual careers. In the Bloomberg interview, he said something very telling of how BTS is running their career. He said, and I quote, "It is not my place to talk about their career." Let me say that again. He said, and I quote, "It is not my place to talk about their career." This is the owner of the company under which BTS is signed. The man who quite literally invested in BTS, and he can't speak for BTS's members' individual career. You would think that if there's anybody outside of BTS members who can talk about the individual careers of BTS members, it would be him. Bang Si Hyuk further explained that when a member comes forward with a project, he just asks some questions to understand better what the member wants to do. Like, why are you doing this? What is the scope? What have you learned from the previous projects? These questions are, just like what he claimed, meant to make him understand what BTS wants to happen, not to influence their plans. This proves that BTS has control over their career to a level that Big Hit or Bang Si Hyuk himself doesn't feel it is his place to discuss their future. Now let's talk about the acquisition of foreign companies. When you acquire a company, you aren't just buying their license, you are buying their history, network, cash flow, processes, and potential. This is not entirely a new strategy, but often overlooked. Some are so concerned about building their own so that they can make an impact, only to later on realize that growth in the music industry takes more than just popularity or talent or even money. Especially if you are a foreign entity doing business in a cliquish industry like Hollywood. Acquiring a company is a time machine that lets you compress a decade or two or three in a year or two of negotiation. When HYBE acquired Ithaca and quality control and retained the people, they automatically established their presence inside Hollywood. And if they do things right, they will become what Ray-Ban and a few others are to America, a global American brand owned by a foreign entity. Consistently produce stars. K-pop has always been known for producing new groups quick and phasing them out just as quick. TikTok and other technologies actually made it worse. Now, fans are less patient when it comes to sticking it out to one artist. Bang Si Hyuk believes this trend will continue and wants to double down in launching new groups but lengthen their staying power. He didn't say this part, but it seems that they are doing it the same way BTS did it. Before officially going solo, BTS members had unofficial solo projects while they were still in the group, such as mixtapes. It allowed the members to explore their own artistry and grow with less risks to the group. But once they mature and they feel they are ready, they can go off on their own, but with a more established artistic identity and knowledge about the market. So far, Source Music has allowed Yoonjin to release her own music and Eunche to explore her hosting skill with her own show. I think once Lesser of Him gets to the level of success they want, each member will pursue their own solo career towards something more sustainable. Monetize everything. Everything they create has to strengthen the relationship of the artist with the fans, and that equals easier monetization. I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, this is too much about money. Where is the artistry? Is he really that greedy? Artistry has to be there to begin with. Bang Si Hyuk actually said that they aren't necessarily looking for someone who is the most talented right off the bat. They're looking for someone who is more committed to their art than anything else, and someone who is disciplined enough to hone their own skills even without guidance. HYBE apparently gives their artists enough autonomy to improve themselves and create their own art. In HYBE's training and development special, which they aired on YouTube, the trainees actually said they were in charge of their own scheduling and designing of their own training. HYBE believes love for art and discipline are two things you can't teach, but they're also the most basic when it comes to growing your own career in the entertainment and music industry. HYBE's role is to give the artists the resources they need, but not to create their career or create their own identity for them. His goal is to make himself dispensable. He said that if he is unable to retire in 10 years as the chairman of HYBE, it means that he has failed, because for him, no company should be dependent on one person. And a lot of the things that they're doing right now, they are very much dependent on his vision and his execution. So his concern isn't just about expanding K-pop. It is about making sure that the company that he started will exist beyond him. And that's how you know it isn't just about vanity. I'm sure it is part of it, but it isn't just about that, because he truly wants to leave behind a legacy that other people will benefit from, other people can grow. And also, one thing that will help is if you could listen to people like him, people like Yisuman, successful entrepreneurs, whether or not you hate them, just focus on the business and what they're doing, like Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, even Kim Kardashian. And then you just listen or watch a slew of other managers and entrepreneurs, and you will be able to see who are the real visionaries and who are small time managers. I remember watching the CEO talking about how great that person is, the CEO is, because they were able to shoot a music video that is so cheap just by focusing on the faces of the artists. And I thought, that is so small time. That is such a small time thinking. There's a small time way of thinking on how you can be efficient with your spend. It isn't about just saving $100,000. It's not about that. That is a small time thinking. So, but if you listen to this business, like real successful entrepreneurs, you'll be able to see the difference on how they think. These people think big, and you'll be able to learn from them, I'm sure. I hope it's able to help. This is also a good break, I feel like, because there's so much chaos going on. I hope I was able to put your head to something else, even for just a moment. If you ended up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And share the video if you can. Also, follow me on Twitter or on X. Follow me on Patreon. I do have a free membership if you want to kind of just test the water first. And also follow me on Instagram. Thank you.